My media product uses the forms and conventions of a horror as there is use of dark lighting and shaky camera movement. Also, the two actors starring in the film opening are teenage girls, which is another form and convention of a horror. Further use of forms and conventions in relation to the horror genre are shots from the murderer's point of view. These are the opening shots and the last 3 shots in the film. I've developed on the forms and conventions of a horror by using these in my product. However, a way in which I have decided to challenge a particular form and convention of a horror is to go against the use of blood and gore. I decided to challenge the forms and conventions regarding the use of blood and gore as seen in recent horror movies, as I felt it would be more interesting to still try and keep the fear factor that a horror provides without the use of visual props such as blood. One of my aims was to be able to evoke fear among the audience without blood and gore. I wanted to approach my project with a more modern perspective, and by going against the use of blood and gore, I feel my take on the horror genre is in turn more modernised and unique. My media product represents age and gender, as the victims in the narrative are 2 teenage girls, which is quite conventional in such horror genres. In terms of representing ethnicity, the actors used are from an Asian background. This is not particularly common and is therefore fairly unconventional in such a genre. One media institution that might distribute my product is Film 4. Film 4, unlike most of the media institutions, doesn't focus on broadcasting just blockbusters. Instead, it aims for a more niche market, and it does so by showing a mixture of films including old and new independent, art house, British, foreign language and specialist cinema, all alongside critically acclaimed Hollywood films. As my film is not a big budget venture and is a smaller independent film, and also British, I believe that Film 4 would therefore distribute my film. My target audience is a broad cross-section of young people, aiming towards those between the ages of 15 to 25 years. However, although this is my target audience, this does not mean that those of other ages cannot view my media product. Even though I have established a target audience, I feel that my product has universal appeal and will interest anyone who enjoys watching films of the horror genre. It is aimed at all ethnic backgrounds and social grades. In terms of demographic groups, my media product will be aimed at the working class, C2DE, as horror films are global. My product is also aimed at both males and females. I composed a questionnaire prior to filming, which was very useful in helping me to address my target audience. The findings from my questionnaire showed me that the choice of favourite genre amongst the people that answered my questionnaire was horror. However, all of the people that chose this genre were from the younger age spectrum of my questionnaires age range. From this information, I concluded that as all young people that answered my questionnaire were interested in horror, that I would do a horror. I purposely chose to include teenage actors so that young people would be drawn in by the age of the characters and would also be able to relate. The music I have used in my opening scenes is very eerie and spooky. This is to attract my audience, as if the music is scary then it sets the tone for the film and reels in the viewer. I also used a variety of short and fast-paced shots, putting these clips together to give more of an impact. From this information, I concluded that as all young people that answered my questionnaire were interested in horror, that I would do a horror. I purposely chose to include teenage actors so that young people would be drawn in by the age of the characters and would also be able to relate. The music I have used in my opening scenes is very eerie and spooky. This is to attract my audience, as if the music is scary, then it sets the tone for the film and reels in the viewer. I also used a variety of short and fast-paced shots, putting these clips together to give more of an impact. As I had to record the development of my project on a blog, I have become more familiar with blogging. Publishing and logging my work onto the web allowed me to take responsibility for my thoughts by making them public. I found that by blogging, I thought more about what I was saying when writing the development of my project, and this enabled me to think more about my project as a whole. It allowed me to analyse my work on a deeper level. Another thing that I've learned about technologies from the process of constructing my media product is how to use Final Cut Pro, as I had to use this when editing my video. I learned how to log and capture my video footage from the DV tape I used to film, and how to add credits and text to my film. I also learned how to edit sound and colour, and how to add video transitions and effects. When I first started my project, I didn't think I would learn as much as I have. Along the way, I feel I've become more advanced in my knowledge of filming and video editing. I am pleased that I've learned so many new things, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to apply these to my media product. For my preliminary task, I worked in a group with 2 of my fellow media students. By working in a group, I felt I have learnt new skills, as working in a group has allowed me to communicate with other people's views. I was able to share information and ideas on a topic, and by doing this I realised that you are able to find something useful in someone else's view. So in a way, working in a group was an advantage for me, as I learnt a lot more than I would have if I had worked by myself. I've developed on what I learnt in the prelim tasks, where I had to make use of the match on action shots, shot reverse shot and 180-degree rule. I incorporated pans, transitions and point of view shots into my point of view shots and framing. The framing allowed me to think more about what goes into the frame, and I feel because of what I learnt in my preliminary task, the outcome of my media product was better.